This right here is Pony Friends on the Nintendo DS. It's not the best game I've ever played. I started doing this one as a joke in a Discord call. Now, if you don't know, whatever the aspect ratio of the thing you're looking at, Discord's going to try and make it a big old square, so for everyone else involved, it probably looks something like this. Now that it's a pretty game to begin with. Pony Friends is one of a tidal wave of rampant shovelware titles about owning an animal that came out in the wake of Nintendogs in the past. As far as I know, it's the only one currently hooked up to retro achievements, but it's a rough set, man. What have you? The meat of the gameplay entails... Hang on, I love Gopher. Look at that little fucker. Majestic. The meat of the gameplay entails riding around on your pony friend and looking at things. Movement happens automatically, save for speeding up and slowing down. There's a few other bits actually. I can wash Jeff with 3 Fs here, but I'm pretty sure I'm doing it wrong. He hates this. And you can make him race, but you gotta yell into the DS microphone for him to actually try. And I don't know how to do that on an emulator. I'm yelling now, and he's still shit. Which leaves the riding and the looking. Sometimes an animal will come along and you can take a photo of them by focusing the camera in their direction. Sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't work, and sometimes it works too well. This is a beaver. It's hard to tell for sure what anything is before you're directly told. Generally, you're just trying to fixate on any set of pixels that doesn't quite look like it belongs. Here I spotted the red triangle at a distance, but had no possible way of knowing what it actually was.
Who's that Pokemon?
Cardinal. It's the feeling of going out for a walk for the first time after a long winter, and realising your glasses prescription is now way out of date, in video game form. I'm not here today just to make the point that this fake scam video game for little girls from a decade and a half ago isn't very good. I actually found it kind of mesmerising. The shapes and colours of Pony Friends on the Nintendo DS are loosely based on those you might find in real, but are presented in such entrancingly low fidelity as to ensure that nothing like these vistas could ever exist in our world. Your pony ride will carry you by a bizarre mixture of wildlife from the US and UK, all represented in the abstract by a series of colourful rectangles and triangles, and through settlements that seem completely detached from any fixed time period or geographical location. The dock is made of cobblestone and lined by wooden cranes. The swamp has a 100-year-old car wrecked in the middle of it, and this little ghost town is what Red Dead Redemption might have looked like on the Game Boy Color. It's obvious they just used whatever assets they had lying around for whatever other garbage shovelware they were firing out at the time, just like it's obvious that nobody on staff had ever seen or heard of a gopher. But nonetheless, someone built all of these things and arranged them here for me to explore. A linear sequence of non-Euclidean geometries. I got to thinking, I wonder how many people have been here before me. How many other humans have seen these sights? Have had exactly this niche, bad experience, have shared in my headache. And then, suddenly, I wasn't just a redoubtable memer playing Pony Friends on the Nintendo DS as a joke. I was an intrepid explorer. The closest other game I've played to Pony Friends is LSD Dream Emulator on the PlayStation 1. It's one of those classic top 10 list trivia games you've heard of, but probably never looked directly at, which is fair. It can be hard at times, even. Similar to Pony Friends, LSD sees you looking at a lot of strange things. And also like Pony Friends, LSD's not very good, but its heart's definitely in the right place, and I have a lot of respect for it as an art project. In fact, I'd recommend you emulate it yourself and have a quick run around sometime if you can make it through this clip of me walking down some stairs in it without throwing up. LSD is a fascinating item of history. It's not the first game to be based on a book, nor the last, but it's one of a rare handful where the book in question was a dream journal. And it's kinda mad this was officially released for the actual Sony PlayStation console, and not cobbled together in secret in a dark basement on RPG Maker. This would not happen in present day. It's too risky. And indeed, the end result of the project was that it lost everyone involved a shitload of money. Dream Emulator released alongside a book of illustrated excerpts from the aforementioned journal, Lovely Sweet Dream. You can search that up on the Internet Archive if you're interested, and I'll be interspersing little gems from it here, such as the following.
Wednesday, January 11th, 1989. Oysters with eyes. Raw oysters are on a plate. They are a couple, and both have eyes. They're still alive, and it looks like they're mating on the plate. After a while, I come back to the plate. The oysters are still there. This time I grab them and put them in my mouth, but I cannot swallow them, as I feel like their eyes are still watching me. With the raw oysters in my mouth, I can't even chew, and I'm feeling sick in a greasy sweat. But I can't do anything but to just keep standing there.
There was also an acid jazz album, Lucy in the Sky with Dynamites, which is kind of a fucking banger, by the way. Schizophrenic Ragtime kinda got sauce. The game itself is the weakest third of the trifecta. An OG old-timey walking sim built to emulate the experience of existing within an actual dream. A dream can last a few minutes or a few seconds. Sometimes it's a cutscene. Thursday, March 5th, 1992. Symmetrical twins. It looks like the old woman next door's gone crazy. She's forcing me to eat a big bowl, with lots of rice grains stuck to it. My great-grandmother has become symmetrical twins. She would usually help me, but not today. Sometimes it's Japanese words. One notable thing that sucks about me is that I cannot read Japanese, so tell me in the comments what this says, please, Legis. Other times, you get to walk. The world is a treasure trove of strange things to observe and kinda awkwardly bump into. A cacophony of sound and colour with weird characters and random events lurking around every corner. Sometimes. Sometimes you're just out for a walk in a field and then you wake up. Dreams is like that, I suppose. That's never happened to me before recording for this video. Friday, October 25th, 1996. A skeleton. There is a skeleton, and then some strange things. And I forgot what happened after that. Now, if you ask me, this is exactly the kind of weird artsy nonsense I am here for. In this case, though, doesn't really work. The game runs a horribly unstable 10 frames per second, dropping to a cool 6 or 7 if you're around too many colours or walls. The soundscape is maddening, and there aren't enough locations. Everything takes place over like 4 big ones and a handful of little wibbly ones that tend to not have a whole lot in them to examine. At first, everything's wild and new, but within, say, an hour, 2 hours, you're checking a couple specific spots on each screen to see if anything new's happening, and moving on. Sometimes the colours and textures are different in an otherwise familiar setting, and there's a whole lot of music that can happen to you in this game, but it all becomes rote alarmingly fast. The vision was noble, but the technology just didn't really exist to put into action. And if it did, it wasn't on the PlayStation 1. There was a lot of mystery around the game for a while, though. I think there was even creepypasta. I remember hearing rumours that there were pictures of dead kids in the game if you played for long enough. I'm just not sure how much sincerity that information was meant to be relayed with. LSD was something Let's Players would wheel out every once in a while and pretend to be scared by. The dreams can genuinely be quite unnerving if you're into it and all the lights are out, but Not in a way that's going to function as children's entertainment unless you really ham it up. These days, though, subjected to the internet's weird fixations and propensity for hyper-completion, the code's not stood up to scrutiny. Oh no! Tuesday, May 30th, 1995. Keeping a strange creature. On top of the washing machine, there's a strange-looking, worm-like, squid-like, octopus-like creature with lots of slimy legs. Come to think of it, maybe this thing's always been there by the faucet of the washing machine. As I run the water in the sink by the washing machine, the creature slimes over towards the sink, as if it was attracted to the water. It's disgusting, but there's nothing I can do about it. But when I sprinkle water on it, it twists its body as if it was sick. I want to shove the thing back into the washing machine, but it's not working. I keep splashing water on it. It falls between the sink and the washing machine, and slimes around down there. No. Great. What was mysterious is now thoroughly understood. What was rare and special can now be calculated. You could pick up a guide and probably see every individual weird thing the game has to show you within a few hours. LSD was initially made without any real goals or objectives for the player, quite intentionally. Dreams don't have objectives, after all. And Osamu Sato, the artist behind the project, just didn't feel they were important. I peaked retro achievements, which disagrees. If you don't know, this is a weird thing I'm into right now, where you're awarded fake points that don't do anything for performing feats within old video games. Retro Achievements considers a completion of Dream Emulator to have occurred after 365 dreams are performed, and a mastery after you've done that, experienced every event at least once, and done a couple other wiggly bits besides. A few LSD masters fiddled with it on and off over a couple of months. A few more did it in a week. One guy did it in 2 days. Though, if you ask me, that's a dangerous amount of LSD. I don't know how to feel about this. I know that the game was made without point by design, its mechanisms inscrutable, on purpose. I wonder how the dev team would feel knowing someone could pick up their esoteric art piece and beat it within a couple of days. I also think mapping out all the events and how everything works was probably a really cool project, and that someone did have to really get in there and prove there were no dead children. Moreover, people like to feel that their time's creating value. You're not just playing a video game, you're unpicking its very foundations. You're mining it of fake points, you're beating it on Dante Must Die difficulty. Can you beat X game if Y modifier has been a YouTube staple for a good while now, and while I hope it leaves soon and never comes back, I do kinda get it. I just also think it's important sometimes, even here in the violence district, to stop and look around. Oh, see? Wouldn't have found that otherwise. There's 3 points. So this is the thing I'm doing. Alright, I'm not going to give an explanation. You know, if you know, you know. If you don't, you're just going to see me talk about these funny little pictures for a while. I have noticed some issues with aspects of this tier list already. Okay, I click record and not stream. That's always good. It's always good when that's what I mean to do. And I also have my little cheat sheets up here. So I can identify the portraits, because I'm not good at remembering what people look like. One person I do remember what they look like, of course, Sigurd. So, Sigurd is the best unit in Fire Emblem 4. Sigurd is probably the best unit in Fire Emblem in general. Sigurd is, of course, you only get him in the first half of the game, but that's, you know, most characters in this only appear in one half of the game. There's a reason for that. You can play it yourself if you want. It's Fire Emblem 4, by the way. Anyway, Sigurd outpaces the enemies around him by so much. It's disgusting. if you're trying to be efficient, if you're trying to like move quickly, get things done in a relatively short amount of turns, what you want to do is you click on Sigurd and then you click the tile that's closest to the enemy boss, and then you can just end turn if you want. Like that's already a good turn. You're probably doing it right. He also has the kind of the best weapon in the game. He gets given a silver sword on chapter 1. He'll be using that to kill a lot of people. Now Fire Emblem 4 has a mechanic where if you kill a lot of people with the same weapon, which we've just said is killing a lot of people, the weapon gains the critical skill, and then it starts to have more and more critical chance. Up to, I don't even know how much, up to a lot of critical chance. Up to it's weird when he hits someone and doesn't crit them. This means like Sigurd, he's faster than everyone. He's a good vessel for just every ring you can put on him, basically. I mean, you might as well, not the magic ring, but like everything else. He probably does need the barrier ring, because his res is his big weak point. He doesn't like... He doesn't hate it, but he doesn't like being around a lot of wind mages. Anyway, he doubles everyone. Half the time he hits them for 1,000,000 damage and kills them in one hit. He gets rid of basically all the bosses. He does get a legendary weapon on the last chapter. You do have to pay a lot of money to actually like fix that so you can use it. But you don't really need it. He's kind of set with his silver sword. Yeah, he didn't have TFing for very long. That don't. That's no spoilers, but you know they don't get too attached to Sigurd. We can do Alec next. Oh, we'll just put those away. Shouldn't be needing those. So this is the Chinese restaurant, which is one of my favorite maps in the whole series. It's probably might be my favorite. It's definitely got my favorite music theme. You can go in the bathrooms over here. There's always I can't remember which weapon slot this is, but I remember it's one of the higher ones. You don't want to go in that stall. It's bad in there. And one of the sides leads to a funny little room with some armor in it, and the other leads to the kitchen, which can bring you down into the tunnels. Now, if you'll excuse me for one moment, we can actually shoot out the plates, and they quite satisfyingly explode. I was doing quite well for a minute there, and that's beautiful. Of course, you do have to do the glass smash challenges on this map, which does involve breaking every plate in the entire restaurant. Now you go that way, you end up in the tunnels. I'm not a big fan of the tunnels. It's awful squiggly down there, but if we come around this way, we can get to the front of the restaurant. That's pretty good. The Chinese restaurant is famously, no idea what that says, famously the site of Big Tony's illegal briefcase operation in the first game. You can actually go down underneath this bridge, as well as across the top, and pick up the rotating Tommy gun. That's a double damage power-up right there. And I do like all these little bits where you're outside the restaurant looking in. I just think that's nice. There's something just very endearing in a video game about being able to see people moving around inside a building, especially at the time. It's a grenade launcher there. Keep that in mind. Here are the bins. I want to tell you about Twitch next. Don't worry, it's not an ad. It's a story. I am on Twitch. Have been for years, but I'm trying to cut down now. Some days I don't even open the website anymore, and that's pretty good. That's healthy. Twitch is a platform built for and around video game streamery, coming off a big Let's Play boom in the 2010s. Across the internet were infinite hours of video game footage with disinterested people saying strange things over the top of it. And initially this was just a weird hobby, but by now it was a burgeoning industry. By making it live, creators could interact with fans in real time, and more pressingly, could pump out even more content even faster than with the traditional Let's Play format. So I guess they never thought anyone would look this closely at them. Compared to the health pack. Twitch today is the 30th most viewed website in the world, though the vast majority of its fans reside in the United States. And despite dedicated efforts to make the website just a little bit worse for everyone every day since its inception. What the fuck is with these horrible banner ads now? This shit sucks. Twitch is also a cesspit. If you ever wanted to watch an empty chair react to someone else's YouTube videos, or hear someone with no particular interest in the world beyond the current Dead by Daylight meta, and a cutesy anime avatar give their hot takes on an ongoing genocide, Twitch is the place for you. I've streamed on it for at minimum 3 hours almost every week for like the past 5 years. I have very conflicted feelings about this. It's actually a kind of liminal quality. It's kind of unnerving playing a... Watch out for the damp. Playing a multiplayer shooter with no enemies around. Just being... existing in this space that's meant for... you know... kind of chaotic gun battles, but all the insane gunmen have gone home. So the main draw of Twitch is that it's really easy, and you get paid to do it. You fire up OBS, maybe get a webcam running, and just play a video game. Some magic happens, and the dollars roll in. Before you know it, you're having weird beefs with other vapid content creators, and having to make a disingenuous apology video for an inexplicable racist outburst brought on by losing at Pokemon. Very awkward when you're trying to break them with bricks. Also, interestingly, with the Luger pistol, if you spin around, you can see there's no one holding the trigger, and you can even fire like that. No one pulls the trigger. Maybe it'd be better if I put a bunch of, like, bots on but gave them fire extinguishers. Maybe that'd seem more natural. So just be a bunch of maniacs running around with fire extinguishers. Here's the little panic room. The vibe on the back end is all very corporate, with little widgets and metrics trying to optimize your category selections and viewer retention. You'll get regular emails telling you how, by announcing your upcoming streamiversary, you could boost engagement and revenue by as much as 7%. I've never taken any of that stuff seriously, and find the people who do to be deeply strange. I've spent most of my time on the website trying to make my content as unwatchable as possible, as a joke. And though a couple of people do subscribe to me, I don't know why and frequently tell them not to. Crouching doesn't actually help you, but you can feel like you're doing something by crouching behind this little wall. You can also stand here and pretend to be restaurant staff. You have another player back in the kitchen, receiving the orders. Look, when you're a kid, you make your own fun. Sometimes you don't feel like playing Times Plays, you feel like playing restaurant. I've gotten a few £100 out of my time on Twitch by now, and that's despite an aggressive and continuing lack of effort and only streaming games nobody's ever heard of. I use the proceeds to buy frivolous treats for me. So that's cool. You do have to reach a certain size before you're eligible to be paid for your gaming, and coming in the door, in present day, doing it as a hobbyist, this is fairly close to impossible. Sorry if I just ruined your new dream. 95% of all channels on Twitch average less than 5 concurrent viewers, with 1 or 2 huge channels or esport events comprising the vast majority of the population. Most Twitch users only watch 1 or 2 guys, and even if someone wanted to find your little startup down in the mud, they'd really have to go digging for it, fighting against every aspect of the website, trying to draw their attention to someone who generates them a lot more revenue. For sure, if I hadn't started when I did, it would never have come to anything. I wouldn't have stuck it out, I wouldn't have gotten into content creation, I probably wouldn't have bothered with the YouTube channel either, and we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. The thing is, the story I want to tell you today, to get out into the world before it's forgotten altogether, there was one brief moment in the now long dead past Not one of my favorite maps, Mexican Mission. Oh. Yep, there are the maniacs with the fire extinguishers. That's going on now. A half-remembered dream. A golden yellow memory, like warm daylight. Seems unreal these days, but I know it must be true because I lived through it. I persist because of it. There were maybe 6 months where Twitch wasn't the lamest shit you've ever heard of. Twitch was fucking cool once. I mean, if you were, I don't know. I'm now looking at in an actual player versus player environment, but I've never played without the full complement of bots on as well. No matter how many players I've had. So everyone wants to get outside because there's the maximum sight lines here. You can see the most bots to shoot. So spawning in the catacombs can get really frustrating. You can just kind of feel stuck in there. Like you're in the catacombs, you got really powerful weapons on, you turn a corner, you get blown away. You spawn, you back further in the catacombs. It can be quite frustrating. You can shoot the bell like the gong in the Chinese restaurant. Unfortunately, you can't do it with a fire extinguisher. This might have been a mistake, actually. There's caveats, of course. These were 6 specific months. Those months are long over now, and as with the rest of linear time, we can never go back. Twitch is a whole different entity today than it once was. Bigger, meaner, vastly less exciting. Also, you had to be gay. That's just the way it is, man. Hate the game. The months in question began far enough into the COVID lockdowns that everyone had already gone stir-crazy, bought a webcam to try and chat with friends, found out that schedules just never quite line up, and gotten desperate. I think we can all agree that the fire extinguishers were a mistake. I think that might work. Someone punched me. They fired up those barely used cameras, OBS, and Stardew Valley, in the vain hope that their screams into the void would go recognised. Twitch was hit with an influx of new users like never before. Not toxic gamer boys or hashtag content creator influencers, but like human people. Frequently, they were gay people, who banded together under the once powerful queer tag. These were individuals who weren't trying to market themselves or to push a product. They weren't beholden to the platform, they didn't have a reason to censor or sanitize their thoughts or personality, and they almost never remembered their streamiversaries. They did every single thing you're not supposed to do as an influencer. All they wanted out of the venture was sincere human connection with the funny little gay people who live in the computer. This is the environment I came up in, a wave of friendly but lonely people who all just so happened to be playing the same thing you were because every single gay in the universe owns Stardew Valley. They'd jump in and excitedly ask how your con was coming along. You'd tell them it's a lot of work and now you don't have the energy to go fishing as much as you used to, but it is coming along nicely. They'd join your Discord group, a weird little ghost town with nobody in it but you and 2 bots, and you'd join theirs. And then later you'd see that they were streaming, and you'd go over to have an identical conversation, but about tomatoes. Okay. This is the ice station. There's really not a lot here. You can, of course, break the windows. You can even walk out through a lot of the windows, which does cause a little bit of damage. We don't need a homing rocket launcher for this. Actually, did quite a lot of damage. This is the most open map in the game. That's kind of beautiful. There's this weird little platform here that I always wondered about. Like, what's the point of this? You can see that there's just nothing. I'd never felt comfortable being out and queer before. I'd never had specifically gay spaces to be in. I'd never met such open and beautiful people as I did there, and I'd never had a little crowd cheer me on while I played Hatris, the hat-based Tetris-like puzzler on the Nintendo Entertainment System. I was on the back end of burning out from a string of horrible office jobs, the last of which was so viscerally bad that my co-workers didn't all survive it. I'd been out of contact with anyone who knew me for probably half a year. I needed a win. And I needed a friend. These days, almost all of my closest friends are people I met back then. Something like 5 years ago, in that one fleeting moment. I met my best friend playing Disco Elysium, and we've talked almost every day since. Of course, almost none of these people remain frequent users of Twitch.tv. And there was an exodus. Twitch had rapidly become too gay, which was offensive to a lot of the toxic gamer clientele, and also worrying to the Twitch staff, who, in true corporate fashion, have always endeavoured to remain broadly supportive of marginalised groups just as long as absolutely nothing is actually at stake. It is currently against Twitch terms of service to use the term Zionist on their platform, because YouTube personality, dedicated freak, and alleged consumer of canine fecal matter, H3H3, got pissy at them one time. Twitch has built-in pride flag emotes, but the automatic chat moderation robot will flag any conversation that gets a little too homosexual as potentially harmful speech. You also, famously, can't call someone a cracker over there. Now that's just silly. Now this is a very interesting one, because this is the Notre Dame map. There's a lady dangling from the roof over there. We're just going to ignore that for the time being. But this map was actually modeled on Notre Dame Cathedral, the actual Notre Dame Cathedral, before pre-fire. And I don't know what happened with that. I remember hearing, it'd been burnt down. I remember hearing it was basically a write-off now. And then I remember hearing after that they were actually planning on trying to rebuild it. So I don't know where that ever ended up, but for sure, this version of Notre Dame has to be... I'll get to it. It's not what we're doing in this video. So, unfortunately, you can only come to this map on story mode. So what's happened here is that some skeletons are trying to shoot me. We'll just pick up the time crystal while we're down here. But it's just very interesting that like this is a moment that's kind of lost to history with outside of video games. It's been preserved as an environment to shoot skeleton priests in Time Splitters 2, and that's the only way you can ever go back. You can ever see this historic site again. That said, I do believe one of the Resistance games has a level where you go into Notre Dame Cathedral. Apparently this was like fully based on. They went in, they looked around, they built this to look as much like the actual place as they could. You can also go upstairs. There's a couple ways upstairs. Anyway, freaks started launching organised botting campaigns against queer creators. You'd be watering your peas and then hundreds of people with weird names would show up in chat in a unified chorus of hate speech. This was disruptive and upsetting. At best, it rendered the chat box completely inoperable, and at worst, it made you really not want to be there. I'm being shot quite a lot now. There weren't really any tools built into the website to handle it, other than having a team of moderators spend a good long while banning all, like, 1,000 fake people. Folk did band together to try and figure out a move for this, and I particularly remember an ever-expanding database of non-bot accounts we were all supposed to ban tens of thousands of names from. This was all on the part of the community, by the way. For a really long time, Twitch just didn't do anything. In fact, if they took any action at all, it was normally to ban the recipient of the attack for botting. Ignorant of, and perhaps deliberately so, the users of their very website who were openly bragging about launching the attacks in the first place. And look at that. The little rain effect on the camera. It was all quite convenient for them, after all. The newfound gay scene that was upsetting all the freaks were being kept in check. The botting attacks going on 24/7 across the website were a bad look, though, and every now and then someone they actually cared about got by one. They didn't care about all the small gay channels who weren't going to become careerist content machines. There's no money in them. But as these things do, the attacks expanded their scope to cover people of colour and women, some of whom had real channels. They couldn't be allowed to continue, but Twitch didn't want to undo the damage either. A quandary. You actually only get the little drops on the camera if you're facing this way, because that's where the rain's coming from. It's a little bit, you know, you don't get raindrops on your eyes like this. This is specifically a thing that happens to cameras. It's a fun effect. In the end, the way the website handled this situation was to completely uproot the tags system, which had allowed any of us to find each other in the first place, gay computer people and hateful mob alike. Us weird little idpol types had been saying for years that we'd like to have separate tags for stream category and personal information, i.e., we'd like the ability to say that we were gay without forfeiting the ability to say that we were doing a speedrun. They use this as a smokescreen to radically alter what a tag was, how you might use one, and how people looked for each other through one. And this is Street. Kaz was here. I do really enjoy Street as a map. It's basically just a big open road in the middle and a lot of little wiggly paths around the side. And the way you play on Street is you kind of spawn off in a little offshoot most of the time. You pick up a gun maybe, you pick up some body armor, and then you run outside and you just start blasting. You know, very, very brief lives spent having a lot of explosive fun. We got this beautiful snow effect on the screen in this map. Streets is possibly the most famous Time Splitters map, and by famous I mean it's featured in a motion picture entertainment product, and that is of course in the movie Shaun of the Dead. Ed is playing Time Splitters 2, and he's playing on this stage. And I do think that's quite interesting. For a couple of reasons. One, in the footage, you can clearly see. In some of the footage, it's a little harder to see. But you can clearly see he's using the SBB-90 submachine gun, which does not feature in the default weapon set for this. Like, someone picked that. Also, you only unlock the stage by finishing the game. So I don't know if, like, lots of plans go over the top there. It's very busy. I don't know if, like, a member of staff had to play through the whole game so they could have the perfect setting for this little bit going on in the background. I don't know if they found someone's save and just loaded it up. Don't know what the story is behind that. I just like it. Tags were now just weird little words you typed in a box rather than a drop-down list. And if anyone else searched out that exact phrase, you'd bump into one another. Interestingly though, the box did not allow for special characters, so the previously booming LGBTQIA+ category that I was so fond of could no longer exist, and its inhabitants were scattered to the four winds. So, all that happened. The COVID lockdowns became past tense, and people could go out and meet physical friends again. Gradually, everyone who was ever even a little bit cool stopped going on Twitch. I think in part I still come here only because I'm a creature of habit. Weird little gamer habits, to be specific. And making a big change, like not going on the bad website anymore, It's really difficult for me. Like you probably felt something similar when Twitter became a Nazi hellscape, primarily populated by pussy and bio-robots. Maybe part of me remains there as a beacon, like a tragic widow leaving a light on every night for the lover who was lost at sea. Maybe one day everyone will come back, and if they did, they'd have to be able to find one of us. I still guest on a lot of streams with my friends who I love, but when I do things solo, I often find, more and more, that I'm not really enjoying my time there. The vibe's just sort of fucked now. The people are weird. Actually watching streams requires sitting through an intolerable barrage of ads, and I can never find anyone to raid anymore. An ongoing reminder that all my friends left long ago. I want you 2 takeaways from this story to be as follows. Number 1, that Twitch is a horrible website. A golden yellow memory, like hot piss. And 2, you never really know when you're living in an important moment. All the more reason then to stop and look around. I absolutely was enamored with Future Perfect, but the older I get, the more I feel like the series peaked with Time Splitters 2. And Future Perfect, while being a much more normal video game, a much more understandable video game, was a huge step down. So Arden's weird. Like, his obvious weakness is that he only moves 5 cells per turn. His other weaknesses is that his stats aren't very good across the board. He is a sword unit, so even though his speed is like nothing, he will generally double any unit that's not also holding a sword. Which is not double. Well, I mean, he'd double if you let him keep his pursuit ring. But it'll be faster than them. He won't get doubled. You can let him keep his ring and he can just go around doubling people. It's funny to see Arden double. You probably want to take the ring and put it on a unit that doesn't suck ass though. When you get him, when you're loading out, someone says like, Arden, you just wait in the castle and make sure no one sneaks by. And I don't know if that's what Arden's like for, if that was the intention behind Arden, if he's supposed to just stand in the castle. If so, it doesn't work, because you don't get experience sitting in the castle. The goalkeeper gets no experience, really, unless you're doing a really bad job. And he can't really fight people one-on-one. He can't stop a group of enemies walking into your castle, really. He can stop, like, one that's on half health, maybe. And even then, his accuracy might be shaky. You can't just leave him in the base and forget about it and everything be fine, because then he's not leveling up. I don't know what you do with Arden, man. You get the pursuit ring with him. As far as I know, that's the only function of Arden. I'm sorry, Arden. I love him. He's my son. But it's rough out there to be an Ammonite in the horse game. He just can't reach the enemies, and even if he can, he doesn't do anything. In a sort of rough continuation of what we were talking about at the start, all that time ago, Midnight Club Street Racing on the PlayStation 2 is a video game that isn't very good. It is a singularly slow, clunky, and sad racing game with a physics engine that could only be described as haunted. Of the 3 bad video games I've outlined today, I'd describe Midnight Club as the clear bronze medalist in terms of how much fun I had mining it of footage. It was never a very popular game, and has not been well remembered by the gamers. Additionally, on the retro achievements list, some villain is trying to make everyone win the world championship in a bus, and they're all losing their minds over it. Truly, there is not, nor has there ever been, any reason to play Midnight Club on the PlayStation 2. For anyone. But back in the day, I was poor as fuck. I still am, but now I also have access to emulators. I never got consoles at the same time as all the other kids at school. We were a good couple of years behind. I was playing Pac-Attack on the SNES, when everyone else was playing GoldenEye on the N64 and FF7 on PlayStation. I'd have been just as far behind again when the next console generation came around, were we not blessed by one of Dad's work friends, who decided to eschew the gamer lifestyle, and with it his console. The caveat was the only games we owned were the PS2 port of Deus Ex, a fishing game that's been lost to history, and Midnight Club Street Racing. Of those games, I was old enough to understand how to play exactly 0 of them. Deus Ex is a lot for a baby.
What a shame.
The issue with Midnight Club, I remember, was that I didn't understand how to initiate any of the races, so I was pretty much just stuck driving around. I'd kind of just drive up and down, taking in the sights and sounds and annoying all the little people. I'd bump into things to fill the damage meter like it was a mysterious collectible, and then I'd be confused when I maxed it out and nothing obvious happened, so I'd do it again to make sure. All this was performed through the medium of a big plastic steering wheel Dad's friend hadn't wanted anything to do with, but young me was fascinated by. The novelty there was just enough. Even though the game was horrendous. I've always been kind of fascinated with racing games, and I think that's because, in general, cars are a sort of magic. As a paw, I've grown up around a lot of vehicles in various advanced stages of disrepair, each their own weird, quirky guy with their own personality and set of problems. The actual racing I could generally take or leave, but being on a long car journey, seeing the world around you whip by and wondering what might be around the next bend, that is a primal excitement, hardwired into the lizard brain. Racing games, historically, give you a vessel to explore the world, but draw the boundaries very, very close, and try and distract you with sound and fury and telling you you're in last place in big angry letters and a flashing warning sign that says you're going the wrong way. Roads do not occur in nature. They are strictly man-made rivers of tarmac, created for the purpose of facilitating travel. To see one generally implies the existence of at least 2 other locations, one on either end. A crowd forming at the finishing line implies a whole host of things about the world you're inhabiting, a whole host of people who came from a place by some means to be there, and potentially had to take a day off from work at the question mark factory in Somewheresborough to do so. Nature's long, beautiful sightlines ask their own set of questions. There are a few weird old games I know of that fully allow the player to drive completely off the track and just kind of swan about, and those games are fascinating.
What if you decide, hey, where do these power lines go? Or where is that train headed? Wouldn't it be cool to just say hell with the race and just drive off-road and start exploring it instead? And maybe hunt for crashed UFOs while you're at it? Well, you can totally do that. You can go off-road as much as you want. This is a total open world game.
Shout out Game Dungeon, sure they need the help over there, from channels with 10 viewers. More recently, open world racing sims have fully bloomed as a genre. Your Forzas and your The Crews have gone that way, giving you a vast and beautiful map to explore, although in at least one case those maps have since been expunged from history. As an experiment, why don't you try firing up that on-disc copy of The Crew you got lying around, viewer? I'll wait. I won't actually wait. Can't find the video, but I remember watching a YouTube essayist, that might have been Noah Gervais, talking about their experience driving in one of these games and how it paralleled reality. The incredible level of detail in how the various types of terrain so gradually shifted into one another. Intricate enough that it'd be impossible to notice the subtlety while driving at high speed. The beauty would be lost on most gamers. If there's one thing modern video games do, it's look pretty. I remember thinking when I was playing Red Dead Redemption 2 on the PlayStation 4, One night watching the fake moon pierce a bank of virtual clouds, about how a mountain of time and energy and creativity and acute human suffering had been spent making any individual screenshot look like a painting. How I was witnessing the magnum opus of a whole battalion of talented but nameless programmers at a rate of 60 masterpieces per second, who spilled their blood and broke their bodies just to ensure that a horse's testicles would appropriately react to cold weather. And now, despite all that, the actual video game was kind of shite. In a similar manner, these big Ubisoft open-world drive-em-ups aren't just uncharted, handcrafted worlds to explore, they are 50 different types of annoying icons screaming at you every second. They are loot boxes that need opening and a season pass you have to buy. Good job looking at that mound, gamer, have 50 experience points. Level up and you'll unlock 3 new colours and an annoying sound for your car horn. If there's a second thing modern games do, it is beg desperately for your attention every waking second, lest they be lost and fade into the background of your infinite content feed. Packing up and watching the sunset isn't going to gain you any experience points or cross anything off your checklist. It's very unlikely to be one of your daily challenges or whatever. It won't help me hoard my fake retro achievement points. This right here is pure you time. Center yourself. Remind yourself that you are here because you want to be. In the face of a world of noise, sometimes it can be a minor act of rebellion just to stop and look around.